Welcome to today's show. My name is John. As always, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes or follow the links to social media in the podcast show notes. You can also go to snarkymoviereviews.com to read notes, bios, and other random movie thoughts. Remember, this show is completely free and independent. All I ask is that you jump over to iTunes and give me a review. Today's movie is Earth vs. the Flying Saucers, 1956. It's one of those great old black and white UFO films that came out when America was trying to understand the Cold War between the USA and the USSR and fearing total nuclear annihilation. Kind of like 2017. In this film, aliens contact an Earth scientist as part of a plot to enslave the Earth's population. But he is the one guy they should have left alone. This movie has some really iconic scenes, such as a UFO crashing into and destroying the Washington Monument. These great effects were created by the special effects wizard Ray Harryhausen. Harryhausen said in his biography that this was his least favorite film. It doesn't have any fighting skeletons or sea harpies, but it's pretty good. This was also the last time Harryhausen used stop motion to show buildings being destroyed because it was too much work. The car that Dr. Marvin, Hugh Marlowe, and his wife Carol, Joan Taylor, drive is a 1955 Mercury. Cars were getting these outer space names because of the interest in rocketry. Names like Comet and Galaxy were common. Paul Frees provided the narration and the voice of the aliens. If this voice in any way sounds familiar, it is because Frees is the voice of the ghost host in Disney's Haunted Mansion. When making the alien voice, Frees changed the speed of the reel-to-reel recorder, causing the voice to go up and down in pitch. So on to the actors. We have just a few today. Actors. Hugh Marlowe played the role of Dr. Russell A. Marvin, the scientist trying to save Earth. Hugh Marlowe was covered in episode 28, World Without End, 1956. Joan Taylor played the love interest, Carol Marvin. Taylor was born to a singing and dancing vaudevillian mother and a father that was a prop man. However, the family moved to Illinois after she was born. Her father ran a movie theater, and this is where Taylor developed her love for the movies. After she graduated from the Chicago National Association of Dancing Masters in 1946, she headed to Hollywood. She became a student at the Pasadena Playhouse, and her first film role was in Fighting Man of the Plains, 1949, with Randolph Scott. She was in quite a number of films, but most of them were westerns. However, she is best known for two sci-fi films, Earth vs. the Flying Saucer, 1956, and 20 Million Miles to Earth, 1957. Taylor retired from film in 1963. Story. The movie opens with a series of UFO sightings by military and civilian pilots, American citizens, and people all around the world. They show an Air Force office in Dayton, Ohio, that collects and sifts all of the UFO sightings. Finally, the Hemispheric Defense Command in Colorado Springs declares that they are in danger and should fire at any UFO that is sighted. The movie then switches to Dr. Russell Marvin, Hugh Marlowe, and his co-worker and bride of 2 hours, Dr. Carol Marvin, Joan Taylor, driving through the desert. They pass a sign that says Operation Skyhook and Restricted Area. Shouldn't you keep your operation secret? Mrs. Doctor is driving, something no newlywed would do in the 1950s. Mr. Doctor starts recording on his state-of-the-art reel-to-reel recorder and explains the project. They are collecting data before humans are launched into space. Just then, a UFO buzzes them, rides on their rear bumper, and zooms in front of them and speeds away. It's kind of like driving in Tallahassee. They pull over and watch the ship zoom away. It's a dangerous situation, so now Mr. Doctor drives. Mrs. Doctor smokes. The recorder was on the entire time and captured the noise of the craft. Back at the base, she has to transcribe the notes. I guess because she's a girl. Anyway, they find the recording of the UFO sound. Even though they work in space exploration, they fail to report the UFO to anyone. They get a notice that Rocket 11 of 12 is preparing to launch and head for the bunker. General John Hanley, Morris Ankrum, arrives at the front gate, but he is not admitted because of the upcoming launch. They call Russell, and it turns out that Hanley is Carol's father. Hanley wants to delay the launch, but they announce the marriage to him and then hang up to launch the rocket.
General Hanley wants you.
Oh, put him on. Carol, it's your father.
Calling from Panama?
No, right here at the project.
Hello, Russ.
Hello. Well, welcome home, General. What's the news from Panama?
It's bad, I'm afraid. I think you ought to hear what I found before you send up another rocket.
Can you possibly put it off?
Well, I'm afraid I can't. We're tied to a definite schedule of launchings.
Wait a minute. There's something else I wanted.
Just a minute.
Hi, Dad.
What is it, honey?
I just wanted to hear your voice and tell you Russ and I were married last night.
Hanley meets with Russell, and the doctor is forced to admit that they have lost contact with all of their rockets except the one they sent up that day. Hanley says all the rockets have come down. Russell broaches the idea that someone may be shooting them down. Mrs. Doctor is outside grilling. What? He tells the general about the saucer they saw. They get a note that contact has been lost with Rocket 11. Just then they see two light orbs dancing around in the sky. Russell calls them foo lights or St. Elmo's fire.
They've just lost contact with number 11.
Oh, Russ, I'm sorry.
Is it still in range of our receivers?
If it hasn't been knocked down,
Look. What are those lights?
They're what the pilots call foo lights.
St. Elmo's fire in ancient times. Superstitious regard them as omens of things to come. The best science has been able to make out of them is that they're electric particles agitated by moving air. Same principle as the aurora borealis.
There have been so many around the project the last couple of days, we all just take them for granted.
During World War II, unexplained sightings were called Foo Fighters, like the band. Foo apparently became popular in the 1930s from the comic strip Smokey Stover, a fireman created by Bill Holloman. Of course, St. Elmo's fire is an ionic plasma discharge from objects sticking out like the mast of a ship or the wing of an airplane. It is also the name of a movie, St. Elmo's Fire, 1985. Anyway, Russell and Carol give great scientific explanations right up to when Rocket 11 falls back to Earth. They decide to finish dinner and will launch Rocket 12 the next day. The next day, they are getting ready to launch 12 when a UFO starts buzzing the airbase. Now, I watched enough launches in the 1960s to know that flying saucers over the rocket will cause a halt in the countdown. Hanley goes up to watch the launch while Russell and Carol take up positions in the soundproof office in the basement. The saucer hovers low over the complex before landing in the plaza between the buildings. Now, this kind of saucer doesn't have a handicap ramp. This one sends down a round elevator column to the ground. The slowest walking robotards I've ever seen get out. One walks outside the force field and the Americans shoot him with a cannon. They then start blasting away at the force field with no effect. Duh. Finally, the aliens melt the people shooting at them and retrieve their fallen comrade. Russell and Carol are cut off and trapped underground as the robotards go crazy, destroying the base. Wounded General Hanley is shown on the floor of the saucer, and he is interviewed by a white rose hanging from the ceiling. Hanley starts making threats, and the robotards want to know why they were attacked after contacting Russell. Hanley says that Russell did not understand the message. Hanley invokes the Geneva Convention, and the white rose sucks all the information out of his brain.
Evidently, you do not realize you are in an interstellar conveyance. You are already outside the atmosphere of your own planet.
As a prisoner, all I am required to tell you is that I am General John Hanley of the United States Army.
In the soundproof room, Russell makes a report of all the information he has because he knows the end is near. When the power fails and the tape player slows, Russell gets the message from the aliens.
Dr. Russell Marvin.
the tape.
It is very urgent that we meet.
Russell feels the violence has occurred as a result of a misunderstanding. Newspaper headlines are shown that say the Skyhook operation was wiped out, but Russell and Carol were rescued. The couple is taken to Washington to report what they know about the attack. Russell makes a plea to contact the aliens. He is ordered not to meet the aliens under any circumstances. Major Hugland, Donald Curtis, is assigned to follow Russell. As soon as Russell gets back to his hotel room, he jumps on his handy shortwave transmitter and contacts the aliens. Lucky he had that in the room. They set up a meeting on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay. Carol calls Major Hugland, and they head out after Russell. During the chase, a motorcycle cop joins in. All four get to the saucer at the same time. The ship is parked on the beach. An alien voice tells them to come in and lifts up for the elevator. The cop wants to phone it in, but Russell convinces him to go inside. They stand in front of a large screen that shows them moving away from Earth as the White Rose explains. The aliens slow time to travel.
We must be thousands of miles away from the Earth.
And in a matter of seconds.
You are many miles away from your planet, but not in a matter of seconds. Listen to your watch, Dr. Marvin.
Stopped. It's supposed to be anti-magnetic.
We generate a magnetic field stronger than the gravitational field on your Earth. This is the principle by which we move through space. But your watch hasn't stopped. Feel your pulse.
I haven't any.
Neither have I.
We operate in a very different time reference. You might say all this is happening between the ticks of your watch or the beats of your heart.
The aliens say their solar system is dying and their fleet is circling the Earth. However, they show saucers flying low above the world's capital. They want the world leaders called to Washington so Earth can surrender without fighting. To show their power, they destroy a Navy cruiser. The Earthlings are invited to test the aliens' knowledge, and each question about Earth is answered in the voice of General Hanley, Carol's father. The aliens then say they sucked his mind out, and the zombie Hanley walks up behind them. The cop shoots at the White Rose, and they suck his brain out. The aliens give the Earth 2 lunar months or 56 days to set up the meeting. Talk about surprise attack. Now, am I the only one that thinks it was odd that Marlowe was trying to set up a meeting with aliens in this movie and was trying to stop a meeting with aliens in The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951? So anyway, the aliens give the coordinates of the sunken destroyer. Russell, Carol, and Hoagland are released and make it back to Washington. They have a huge debate about what to do and whether to meet with the aliens. They wonder if atomic weapons would work against the saucers. Russell thinks he can build an ultrasonic weapon that might work on the saucers.
I've learned a little about their mode of operation, and I've got an idea for a new kind of weapon. It's only a guess, of course.
A new weapon in less than 56 days?
I have an idea for an ultrasonic gun. With enough scientific and engineering help, we could construct a working model in a very short time.
Since they have now confirmed that the destroyer was sunk, they allow Russell to work on his weapon. He, Carol, Hoagland, and some other scientists go to a lab and start building. Before long, he has a working model. However, it's not powerful enough. One of the other scientists says they should work on a weapon that will disrupt the saucer's magnetic field. The Army pours resources into the lab and the weapon works. As they test the weapon, one of those orbs shows up in the building and starts buzzing the crew until Hoagland wipes it out with his gat. Fearing they have been found out, they start loading up to head for Washington. As soon as they start driving, a saucer comes and lands outside the facility. They call the military for air support. A robotard goes into the lab. Carol and Hoagland head on with the plans while Russell and the others try to fire the weapon. When they get it cranked, it makes the saucer wobble, but they don't have enough power for a kill. The saucer flies away, leaving one robotard behind. The robotard melts one of the scientists. Then takes out the truck and one more scientist. Hoagland kills it with his carbine. When they take the suit off the robotards, there is a gray inside. About that time, a bomber arrives overhead. They sent a bomber to fight a saucer? Well, you know how that turned out. After that, the saucer comes down and destroys the lab as Russell, Carol, and Hoagland hide in a drain pipe in the middle of the forest. Convenient. The ship throws 2 human bodies out. One being General Hanley, and the other presumably the cop. The group makes it back to Washington and the alien suit is being investigated. They can now translate the alien language. Using a room-length computer, they recover the alien attack plan. The anti-saucer machines are now being produced, but the range is only 1,500 yards. When Russell puts on the alien helmet, he has supervision and hearing. The aliens make a worldwide broadcast giving away their attack plan. They say the sun will be convulsed for 8 days, causing the weather on Earth to become erratic.
People of Earth, attention. This is a voice speaking to you from thousands of miles beyond your planet. Look to your sun for a warning. Following eruptions on your sun, there will be 8 days and nights of meteorological convulsion.
They still want the leaders to meet in Washington to surrender. Russell thinks they have contempt for Earth's power and he sees this as a weakness. The military believes the meeting is a trick. Before long, there's a huge eruption on the sun. As the weather gets bad, they all set to work preparing to defend the Earth, never considering surrender. Russell sends Carol off to Palm Springs because she is a girl scientist so she can go to work on weapons. But it's already too late to leave. A long montage of weather events is shown while they wait for the attack. On the day of the attack, 60% of the people were still in town. The attack sirens sound and the military-industrial complex jumps into action. They send fighters up to face the saucers. They do no better than the bombers did. The rockets fired from the ground have no effect on the saucers. The chief of staff tells Carol that her husband has arrived with the weapons and it is by the Pentagon. She heads out into the attack. Russell's crew shoots one saucer down while artillery tries to support them. Carol runs across the mall, doing some fancy heel running, and finds Russell.
Carol, I thought you'd gone to GHQ calling all HF units. GHQ calling all HF units. Saucer hovering vicinity White House and Capitol.
Russell takes his battery over to defend the White House while the saucers attack water towers and other important targets. One of the trucks is destroyed and the saucer lands in front of the White House. However, they are driven back into the ship. The weapon shoots the saucer and it crashes. Another saucer blows up a church steeple. The weapons take another saucer down and it hits Union Station. The ultrasonic weapon takes out a saucer and it crashes into the Washington Monument. Bastards. 2 more weapons trucks are destroyed. Russell and Carol run to the Supreme Court building and leave the guy on the truck to die. As the saucer attacks the building, another truck brings it down. Some saucers land in front of the Capitol and try a ground attack. Ultrasonic trucks take up defensive positions. One saucer is shot down and hits the Senate chamber. The last one goes down and destroys the Capitol dome. The battle has ended.
The present danger is ended. The present danger is ended.
Russell is given the head of the new Skyhook program and will be given a gold medal by the UN.
The President has ordered Project Skyhook rebuilt, and the space exploration program continued under the direction of Dr. Russell A. Marvin. The United Nations Assembly voted unanimously today to award a gold medal to Dr. Marvin.
And to Mrs. Marvin goes a gold medal from Dr. Marvin for her love, courage, devotion, etc., etc., etc.
Russ, do you think there are any more? Will they come back again?
Not on such a nice day.
Russell just wants to hang out with his wife at the beach. He's a hairy little monkey man. World famous short summary. Newlyweds meet some new friends and have a spat. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Please take time to jump over to iTunes and give me a review. It really helps the show get found. Beware the Moors.
Target that explosion and fire a review.